It's Betsy, and today I have a fun video. I'm gonna go over all the eyeshadow palettes I decided to keep after my declutter and why. So some of you may or may not know, but I went through and decluttered a huge portion of my makeup collection. It was getting to be too much and it was overwhelming, and since then I decided to go on a low buy. But I still kept a lot of eyeshadow palettes, and I've gotten a lot of questions over what I kept and why, so I figured we would go over it today. Now, I am going to go in alphabetical order by brand because I'm that kind of person. So if you're looking for a specific brand, I will try to do chapters down below so that way you know where to look. So first up, we have Adept Cosmetics. Now, Adept typically specializes in singles, but last year they started, or no, 2019, they started doing palettes. So the first palette that they released was the Plain Jane, which looks like this. Isn't that an absolutely stunning color story? These are all shimmers, but they're that really wet looking shimmer. Look at that. I mean, absolutely stunning. And I'm so excited to have this in my collection. But there have been a couple of palettes that have, or at least one palette that is released that I didn't keep. I also decided to keep the Ninhydrin. And it has a couple of mattes in it, but to me, where Adept shines is their shimmer formula. And last, but certainly not least, is the Codeine Palette. This one's a little bit smaller. It's not as big as the other two. The shades in here are still super pretty, but I mean, look how smooth that is. It is such a smooth color, is the best way to describe it. Look at that. And you can see the shifts. Absolutely stunning. So Adept, to me, their strong suit is their shimmer formula. That's what I love from the brand. It's not that their mattes are bad, but I love their shimmer formula. Now, they did release, I don't remember what the little one was called, but I did skip over it because I have so many shimmers and it was more of a neutrally palette. I have a ton of those. So I decided to skip it. But if they do release some more interesting color stories, I will definitely pick it up because I do really enjoy Adept's formula. So the next brand we're going to feature is Allison Cosmetics. Now, I have 5 different palettes that I decided to keep from them. I did actually get rid of several of the newer palettes because, in my personal opinion, their newer shimmers are just not my favorite. The shimmers that are in, like, this is the Poison Apple, which is in collaboration with Serendipity the artist. I love this. Has these beautiful soft shimmers that I really love. Again, you can see that I really like these wet looking shimmers, something that has a little bit more punch, a little bit more pizzazz. I also kept the All I Ever Wanted palette because it is full of nothing but those types of shimmers. And you know, I think I'm getting my feel on shimmers. I also decided to keep the Christmas palette from last year. This was such an interesting color story, which I really enjoy. And Allison does have good mattes. It's not my absolute favorite matte formula. As you can see, they're a tad bit thin, but they're not bad. They are buildable. I think that they're really nice. I love the artwork that Allison uses. I'm just not the biggest fan of their newer palettes. This is the, I don't remember, the Sphinx Palette. That's what it looks like, but they've reformulated. And then this is the Bunnies Palette. That's what it looks like. This one has a lot of multi-chromes. And again, the Bunnies Palette's good. This one, you see, it's got those really, look at that, foiled wet shimmers. That's what I am looking for. But as I said, they've changed their formula, and like several of the newer ones that I got, the strawberry milkshake, things like that, the shimmers were a little bit chunkier. They weren't as foiled, so they weren't my favorite. So I got rid of some of them and I've skipped over some of the newer releases. Now on to the next brand. The next brand on our list is Anastasia Beverly Hills. And as you can see here, the palettes that I decided to keep were the Norvina Pro Pigment palettes. Now, I only kept the big ones. I had all 3 of the little ones, but I decided to get rid of those because I feel like I have those colors in the bigger palettes. So this is the newest one. This is the volume 5. And part of the reason why I love these is the shimmers are super metallic and the mattes are really, really nice in all of these. I like this matte and shimmer formula better than the normal Anastasia. That's why I decided to get rid of it. See how foiled those are? And you can see that that matte has quite a bit of pigmentation. It goes on extremely well. They blend really easily. So I kept all my big Norvina ones. So that one was number 5. This one is number 1. Now there are some repeats because of purples, but I figured with as big as these are as well, I can recreate pretty much anything. This is the pink palette. And again, like, look, isn't that beautiful? Come on. But they also have this one, and the pink one is volume 4. Then this one is more of like the fall vibes palette is how I would describe it. This is volume 3. There aren't as many shimmers in this one, but they're still really pretty. And as you can see, shimmers are the thing that really get to me. That's like my favorite. And then last but not least is volume 2, which is more of the blue-ish palette. One of the things I do love about these two is they match their outside packaging. Like, I feel like the color stories are very easy to recognize, and you can, because there's such a varied array of colors in these, you could almost recreate any palette that you wanted to just with these and some special shades. So next up is BH Cosmetics. Now I kept the 3 Iggy Azalea palettes. So there's a blue one, a purple one, and a pink one. And the only reason I've kept these so far is I haven't tried them to see if I want to keep them in my permanent collection. So we're not gonna even mess with that. But other than that, the only thing I kept from BH was the Sweet Shop collection. So these are the monochromatic palettes, and I decided to keep the BH monochromatic palettes because I think that they're super well done. This is Pistachio, which is the green palette, which this has a very strong shimmer and matte formula. Sometimes BH has really good palettes, other times not so much, but these Sweet Shops are some of my favorites, and I figured it was a good way to keep some monochromatics in a formula that I absolutely love. So here's the Cotton Candy. Here is the more neutral one. This is the Sugar Cone. This is Bubblegum. This one is the Orange Sorbet. And then last but not least is Cherry on Top. This shade right here, Maraschino, look at that. Isn't that a beautiful color? Absolutely stunning. And again, it's very metallic and foiled. So that is something I definitely enjoy. And again, BH has good mattes too. It's just, I got rid of most of them because these color stories start to get super repetitive. And I wanted to be extremely choosy about what I kept, so that way it would be easy for me to pick and recreate palettes as I see fit. So, on to the next. So, the next brand we're going to talk about is Be Perfect. Now, I own 3 of the palettes. I have the Carnival XL Pro, which was number 2. Then I have the Carnival 3, I Love Tahiti, and then Carnival 4, the Antidote. Now, I decided to keep these because I really enjoy Be Perfect's formula. This is the Carnival XL. They have beautiful, beautiful shimmers and beautiful, beautiful mattes. I mean, it helps if I swatch it correctly. And that's something, again, that I enjoy. And I feel like with the 3 palettes I kept, I can get almost any look with any palettes that Be Perfect will release in the future. So this is what the XL Pro looks like. As you can see, there's so many colors. This is a rainbow palette. Same thing with the I Love Tahiti. This is again a rainbow palette, but this is more of a rainbow bright palette. But I love the selection of greens. They make amazing purples, like really, really amazing purples. Look at that. That's blackberry. I barely dug my, or swatched that, but look. But that is something I will say, is they have a little bit thinner of a matte formula, but they build really, really easily on themselves. So that's number 2. And then the piece de la resistance, the favorite palette of mine from Be Perfect, is the Carnival. The Antidote, this is the 4th one. And as you can see why, this is definitely my favorite, because I love these grungy greens. And this is just my kind of color story. Like this shade right here, Grunge, is like this beautiful bronze. And they do greens really, really well. And not all of their shades are thin, but you see how that's a little on the thin side. But again, they build really well and they blend out. I think that's more of like a problem that I have whenever a shadow's thin, is sometimes they don't build, which is kind of more of what I feel like with Alien. They don't build as well as Be Perfect. But Alien always drew me in with their packaging, their artwork, and their shimmers. And then when they changed it, it's like, oh, it's not as appealing to me. Because I know what I like, and that's what I want to buy. Next is Beauty Bay. And this is my collection that I kept. I didn't get rid of any of these. I really do enjoy Beauty Bay's formula. So these are 3 of their little mini Disney palettes. So I have the Jungle Book one, which looks like this. I love these grungy pastels. See how they're more of like a grayed out? I haven't tried that one yet, but not because I don't think that they're good, it's just I haven't had a chance. This one is the Allison Wonderland, and I love the message behind these. I have used this one. These colors are stunning on the eyes. But they use like the Pantone matching to match the colors that were in the stills of these movies. And then this is the Dumbo one. I think they're releasing 2 more of these for Christmas. I'm probably not gonna get them. But yeah, that's the Dumbo one. I haven't used that one yet, but they have a good matte formula. I will swatch some of the mattes in the other palette so that way you can see them, because I still want to use those. I kept, this is the Beauty Bay Book of Magic. I skipped over Age of Opulence because even though they have some of this similar colors, the Age of Opulence is probably more my speed because it has the darker colors, but I can recreate the Age of Opulence between the Book of Magic, which again, look, Beauty Bay has those beautiful wet looking shimmers, and then their mattes are really strong. See what I'm saying? Their mattes are really good. And I would probably make a bet that Beauty Bay is one of my favorite affordable eyeshadow formulas. To me, because Beauty Bay, like their palettes like this range between $15 and $20. So it's not super expensive, and I feel like the formula is good. This is the Wilderness palette. This one is like right up my alley. I have used this one several times. Like look at the shade Ocean. Absolutely stunning. And then last but not least from Beauty Bay that I kept is the New Romantics. Again, I'm saying I kept, but I didn't get rid of any Beauty Bays that I had. And this is a beautiful pink red color story. This is one of the reasons why I felt comfortable getting rid of Modern Renaissance. This is much more my speed. I prefer color and I like color. So you can see, isn't that beautiful? This color right here, Raspberry, is almost like a coral shade. It's such a unique color. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? It's almost like a flamingo pink, because flamingos aren't really pink. They're like a pinkish salmon color, but yeah. Okay, on to the next part is Colourpop. So as you can see, I kept a few from Colourpop, but mainly it's the Disney ones. So And I'll explain why. So I have the Witching Hour palette, which is the newest Hocus Pocus palette. I do have the Nightmare Before Christmas collection coming in. This is the Elsa palette, because I am a Disney, I love all things Disney. So there wasn't a reason why I would be getting rid of any of my Disney palettes. So this is the Anna. Here is, that shadow's coming out. This is the Baby Yoda palette. Then we have Tinkerbell. I haven't even used it yet. It's still in the box. I did keep the At Forest Sight, which is the collaboration between Colourpop and Raw Beauty Christie. These mattes down here, these jewel tone mattes, are really, really nice. And Colourpop doesn't have a bad formula. It's like, so if you look at the shimmer, it's still pretty, it's shiny, but it's not as blingy as I like, and their mattes are a little, again, on the thin side. And part of the problem with Colourpop too is everything gets released over and over. It's like, this is the Midnight Masquerade palette. It is a very neutral palette. If you start to look at like the colors, this is the Hocus Pocus one from last year, and this, if you look at some of those jewel tones that are in it, they're very close to the At Forest Sight. Not identical, but close. And when you're talking about eyelid space, a lot of times close is all you need. This is the Villains palette, the Misunderstood. This one's almost an all shimmer palette. And again, Colourpop has decent shimmers, but they're just not my absolute favorite. And that's part of it. One of the things I was thinking about, other than keeping, so this is the designer collection. This is the first one. But I mean, even look at that. Next to, this is the Midnight Masquerade. I mean, you're looking at a lot of similar tones. This one has a little bit more depth, but not by much. And then if you even kind of compared it to Mulan versus the original designer, you're gonna see a lot of those same neutral tones. That's part of it. And then I also kept It's a Mood. I really like the color story for this one. I love this side of the palette, so I really am enjoying it. And I decided to keep it because, again, I can pretty much, within the collection of Colourpop that I have, I can pretty much recreate any palette that they come out with. And that's part of it. I wanted to keep enough of things so if something comes out that piques my interest, I can take and recreate it within that brand to see if it's actually worth it or not. Because for myself personally, when it comes to eyeshadow palettes, I'll use them once and then never again, and I really want to get some use out of my palettes. That's why I'm doing this. Next brand is Dose of Colors. Now, I kept two palettes, and you can guess which ones. I got my Minnie Mouse one because I missed the Mickey one, and then this is the Donald and Daisy. Now, Dose of Colors, I hate this as a bronzer. I mean, that is not a bronze, that is lighter than my fingertip color. But this does have a nice formula. Their mattes are good. Their shimmers are okay. I'm keeping it because it's Disney. And they're good, easy palettes to work with, which is why I'm keeping them. And the artwork's super cute. But honestly, Dose of Colors doesn't have my favorite eyeshadow formula. I'm keeping those because they're Disney, but Dose of Colors does have a really good liquid lipstick formula. So on to the next step is Fenty Beauty. So I bought the big palette this year. I haven't swatched it. I haven't done anything with it, but this is what it looks like. I did get rid of the rest of my Snap Shadows. I think that this is gonna be a little bland for my liking, but we're gonna test it out and then see if I wanna keep it or not. But that is the only Fenty Beauty. I got rid of the other palettes that I had by Fenty because I don't like their eyeshadow formula. I mean, this is supposed to be a little bit different, so we're gonna test it, but I don't really care for the formula. Like, I don't like the mattes, I don't like the shimmers. There's neither one are enough to make me want to keep buying it. But we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next brand because I only had one from Fenty, and that is Floraces. So I bought these online. and I haven't touched them and I'm not going to touch them yet. Look at that embossing on there. Isn't that gorgeous? So I have that one. Packaging absolutely stunning. And then I also have this one. And I do plan on using these at some point, just not yet. They're really, really pretty though. And that I think is what's kind of holding me back. So I'm like, do I want to mess up that embossing? At this point, I don't. So on to the next. Now we're on to the next brand, which is Glaminatrix Cosmetics. So this is the Ouija Beauty palette. This is what it looks like on the inside. I really like their Shimmer Multi-Chrome formula. Like they're super soft, very pigmented. They feel really, really good. I do enjoy that. But in my opinion, I'm not the biggest fan of their mattes. They're a little dry. They don't want to blend the way that I like eyeshadows to blend. And it is quite pricey to get these from Australia. That's another thing. Like, if I buy anything else from them, it has to be something that really speaks to me, because this eyeshadow palette took me like 4 months to get in, and it was like $100. And part of the thing, when you order something and it takes so long, the newness kind of wears off, and then you're like, oh, it's not as fun. But they do have a good form, and you can see that is a beautiful formula. Then next up we have Glamlite. Now I did get rid of a lot of Glamlite, but I did keep a lot too. So I did keep, this is the Ice Cream Dream, which looks like this. So this is more of their pastel palette, and I decided to keep it because I don't have any other pastels really. I got rid of most of them. And this has a lot of really pretty pastel shimmers and pastel mattes. And you can see that their mattes are a little thin, so that's not my favorite, but they have a beautiful, beautiful shimmer formula. So I kept that one. This is the Red Velvet Cupcake, because red velvet's my favorite, and it's a pinky purple palette. You can get some beautiful, beautiful looks with these. I also kept the Micaela Palette, which is like a purple, it's a neutral purple green palette. And then last but not least is the Cake Palette. So this is what it looks like. Glamlite is always extra, and that's what it looks like. So again, it's a rainbow palette, but between all the shades that I have now from Glamlite, I feel like I can recreate pretty much anything that they come out with. Now I will say that like their happy hour collection, the Dirty Martini palette and the Wine palette really had my eye. But I was like, I have enough greens and I have enough purples from Glamlite. I don't need any more monochromatic palettes, but you know, those did speak to me. And as I said, Glamlite does have a beautiful formula. Absolutely good. Beautiful. But again, thinner matte is Glam Shop. Now, I need to preface this by saying I don't purchase from Glam Shop anymore. It's not that I don't like their formula, but their customer service freaking sucks. So, my last order I placed with them, and I have emails and all this other kind of stuff, which I am a very patient person whenever it comes to deliveries, got lost in Germany. So I emailed Glam Shop because my package kept going back and forth saying that it was in the States and then it was in Germany, in the States. And they were like, oh, there's nothing we can do. Germany's flooded. You need to contact UPS. Well, I knew several other people who ordered at the same time I did that got their packages, and then I ended up contacting UPS and they were like, hey, no, there's something wrong with this package, so that's why it's not coming to you. So again, I contacted Glam Shop and they're like, hey, there's nothing we can do and you need to be patient and blah, blah, blah. And this went on for about a month and a half, and that's after placing my order, paying for expedited UPS shipping. And originally I was like, okay, hey, look, if you can refund my expedited shipping, great. will be cool and I'll just wait for my package to get here. It's not that big of a deal. They wouldn't refund my shipping, so I ended up having to open up a PayPal claim, and PayPal refunded my money, all of it, which really wasn't what I was asking for, but because Glam Shop was like, didn't want to take any responsibility and wasn't being helpful at all, I guess PayPal was like, well, just be done with it. And because PayPal refunded me, they did end up blocking me so from being able to order from them. Which, if a brand's gonna be that petty, because, and I mean, this is pettiness on their part, or at least I feel like it, maybe I'm the villain here, I'm not going to buy from them. You know, if you're gonna have that terrible customer service, me being a business owner or a previous business owner, you have to have better customer service than that. If something gets lost, and it is extremely lost, the least you can do is refund shipping. And they were like, no, you need to contact UPS about refunding shipping. No, if a package is lost, a brand takes care of contacting UPS to get their money back. It's your job to have good customer service. But I do have several palettes from them and singles. This is the Moro palette. Oh, did I just drop 2 shadows out of that? That's a part of the problem too, is their shadows, because it comes such a long way, they're not, like, I have had several shadows from them broken, and you'll definitely see that. That's literally 2 eyeshadows that just fell out. 2. But that's what it looks like. We're gonna kind of keep, this is the Z-Loin palette. Now, I am not telling y'all, anybody, that they can't purchase from them. I'm just telling you my experience. I don't know how to pronounce this one. This one. This one. These are like some pastel palettes. So this is that one. And then last but not least is the Turbina palette, which you can see there's another shade that is empty, because I'm not sure. Like, literally, I have all these other eyeshadow palettes by a lot of different brands. Also, there are literally 3 shades missing out of those, and that's, again, not okay with me. To me, that means that there's something wrong with how they're being packaged if they're coming like that. So, on to the next. For our next brand is Indigo Ink Cosmetics. Now, I only kept the Platinum Hits palette, which is like that really pretty metallic shimmer. And these are really nice, really soft, those really beautiful shimmers that I love. But I did get rid of the 2 palettes that I had that had mattes in them. It's not that they were bad. I have mattes that I like better and color stories that I liked better. But all in all, I do think Indie Beat is a pretty strong brand. I bought their face bases, which are colored face like foundations, and those are really nice. But this is a beautiful, beautiful palette, and I think that this one is great. Then we have Hip Dot, and then I have the Ouija palette. Ah, there goes a shadow. But it just fell out, not the shadow didn't fall out of the palette. So this is what it looks like. I've used it a couple of times. I'm still not 100% sure if this is going to stay or not, because the more I look at it, the more basic it actually is. But I love the palette itself, like the packaging and all that. And I think that's part of it, is like, you know, I'm a little bit weird and I like to keep it. Then the only 2 big Huda Beauty palettes I kept is the Mercury in Retrograde, which I don't know if you've seen it. I did a video duping the vibes of the new Rose Quartz, and I mixed this one, which is the Mercury in Retrograde, and the Naughty palette. And I think I did a pretty good job. And you know, again, I feel like a lot of times brands end up duping themselves, and that's kind of what I'm trying to avoid. Then from Juvia's Place, I only kept 3. So I kept the Tribe, which is the beautiful green palette. I absolutely love this. A subscriber sent this to me, and it is never going anywhere. Their shimmers are really nice. Their mattes are good. It's just, I don't know. Again, I feel like between the Tribe, This is the Walhalla and the Walhalla 2, which I really love the Walhalla 2. I feel like I can create pretty much anything I need to from Juvia's Place within those palettes. Again, they're not bad. Juvia's Place doesn't have a bad formula, but I want their shimmers to be even stronger than what they are, in my opinion. And their mattes are a little more on the dry side, in my opinion. So, on to the next brand. So, the next brand is Kaleidos. And I have 3 of the big palettes. So, this is the Flower Punk palette, which is their newest, which looks like this. Absolutely stunning. Kaleidos has a great shimmer and matte formula, which is a reason why I love it. And they also, see, that is a pastel. And there's no problem with that pigmentation. None whatsoever. I've always gotten good customer service from Kaleidos. Like whenever I ordered the Flower Punk collection, it had an issue and they didn't send the little case thing in the back. So they reshipped it, had no, I mean, great customer service. This is in collaboration with Angelica Nyquist. This is Club Nebula. I love this color story. I love these deep mattes. And again, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Shimmers are my bread and butter. They're my favorite thing when it comes to a palette. And then last but not least in the big palettes is the Escape Pod. So I do feel like Kaleidos is one of those brands that I really enjoy buying from, and I can't wait to see what else they come out with because I really like it. And it's not just their eyeshadow formula. Their lip clays are one of my favorite lipstick formulas, and what is it that I also, oh, their highlighters. Stunning, stunning. Then we have Lethal Cosmetics. So let's talk about Lethal a little bit because I have thoughts. This one is, I don't remember the name. This is After Dark. That's what it looks like. To me, where Lethal shines is they have really good mattes, but their shimmers are a little lacking in my opinion. So you can see their mattes are nice. That's a really pretty shimmer. But a lot of times, like this one, you see how it's not super blingy? I wish they had more shimmer, like really pretty. You see how that it has a little bit of foil to it, but it's not that wet looking foil that I tend to enjoy. But some people don't. They want those more, that's not as flashy. Then we have, this is the Velvet Dusk palette, which looks like this. I love this color story. And then I also kept the Lethal is Dead, which is the collaboration between Teresa is Dead and Lethal. But you see what I'm saying? Like, that isn't the flashiest of these shimmers. So, Lethal is great. I love their mattes. And I ended up keeping most of the things I bought from Lethal. I did end up getting rid of the Jolene palette because these you can pop out and use as part of your single eyeshadow collection. I figured this might be helpful if I do need to dupe a palette and I don't have palettes from the brand to be able to recreate it, if that makes sense. Because Lethal does have an amazing matte formula. But on to the next brand. Next up is Lunar Beauty, which that is Manny MUA's brand. And I have the Eternal Eclipse, which is a grungy neutral palette. How could I not keep this? So, so stunning. Oh, we were talking about silvers the other day on Magpies. That is a beautiful shimmer. That is Adamantium. Look at that. Ooh, that is gorgeous. Love it. And then I also have the original Moonspell. They have a volume 2 now. This is volume 1. I skipped volume 2 because I felt it was a little basic. This is what she looks like. Because the Moonspell 2 was more red and purple. I do prefer the color story of Moonspell 1. Now this is one unit carton that I did decide to keep. But Manny MUA has a great formula. I haven't owned any of the other palettes because Life is a Drag wasn't my favorite color story. Neither was Strawberry Dream. It was like those blues kind of threw me off with it. But all in all, it is a top-notch brand. Like, I really enjoy the formula, and I can't wait to see what else he comes out with. Next up is Melt. I own all of the Melt palettes. All of them. Melt is one of my favorite brands. It's not because of their shimmers, it's because of their mattes and their branding. So we're gonna go through, I'm probably not gonna swatch a bunch of this because there's a ton. So we've got the Smoke Sessions. Love that color story. Blueprint. This is a great palette. I have Radioactive, which is more of that neon palette. The Brunette, which is just a basic neutral palette, but still good. We've got the She's and Parties. This is an amazing palette. Absolutely stunning. 10 out of 10. The 27 palette, again, it's a great neutral, but you can see what I mean. Their shimmers, see, are not that beautiful foiled, but their mattes, look at that. No thinness, just easy. They're just perfect. Their mattes are, to me, the standout from them, and their packaging and branding. This is the Vita palette. Look. Isn't that gorgeous? The one that everybody lusts after. What are they? Look at that. I love everything about it. Mary Jane, which is a beautiful, beautiful cool tone palette. $4.20. I know a lot of people didn't like this, but I really enjoy it. The one that I don't like that I kept is Millennial Pinks. That's what she looks like, because this is a mainly shimmer palette, and their shimmers are like trying to swatch. You saw this shimmer from Lunar Beauty, the silver. See how much that's lacking in comparison? But again, their mattes are strong, even in this one. It's just whenever you have a palette that's shimmer heavy, because there's 3, 5 out of 10 shades, so it's half shimmer, and they're kind of lacking. It's like, do you really want it? Then we have the Rust palette. So as you can see, there's a mix of neutrals, which I think Rust is one of my favorites as far as neutrals go, because it goes so deep. Gemini. This is my favorite Melt palette of all time. This one you can see is well loved. They're actually like, this shade Goals is like a beautiful shimmer. Now, I'm not saying all their shimmers are bad, but you can see I bought this like years ago, and it still performs beautifully, beautifully. So it's a keep. Well, these are all the keeps. The Waiting Room palette from the Beetlejuice collection. The recently deceased palette from the Beetlejuice collection. Isn't that gorgeous? And then we have the Impulsive palette, which again is not everybody's favorite, but I actually really enjoy it. Like Go Getter, see, that's a good shimmer. I think it's because the palette is a little bit confusing to people, because there's like a cool tone and more warm tone side. But those are like, I feel like the shimmers in Impulsive are better than some of the newer shimmers. But again, I love their color stories. To me, like, they do these really unique color stories, and their packaging is so stunning. But this is a beast to deal with because it's so big and it's thick, and like, look, it does like this stair step thing. Not my favorite, but again, my Melt babies aren't going anywhere. Next up is Menagerie Cosmetics. So I did keep the Indigo Ink Palette. This is their newest one. I did have the Annette palette, and I did decide to get rid of it because that palette had, like, their mattes are good. They are stainy. They're a little, I like their newer ones better, but their shimmers still are chunky, but they were much chunkier. They got a new formula. So you can see there's quite a bit of chunk in it, but I like the newer formula better than the old formula. And I feel like this is a unique color story, and I want to play around with it more to see if it actually is a good fit for my collection. But Menagerie does do some absolutely stunning artwork on their palettes. Absolutely gorgeous. So next up is another big set, and that is my Natasha Denona's. So I'm probably not gonna swatch a bunch. Okay, so Natasha, what I love are her mattes. Her shimmers aren't my favorite. This is retro. I love this kind of color story. Absolutely stunning. Then we have the Love Palette, which looks like this. I didn't get rid of any of my big Natashas. I did get rid of some of the minis, but not the big ones. This is the Bronze. Then we have the Glam. Then is the Sunrise. And a good thing about Natasha's palettes too is you can pop out the shades. This is the Zendo. And use them as singles or swap them around palettes. This is Trio Chrome or Trio Chrome. The Circo Loco palette, which a lot of people didn't want because it was so colorful, but I love the color in it. The Metropolis, this is my favorite Natasha palette because again, the grungy colors. But gold is a close second. The Gold palette. Then we have the Lila palette. The Sunset palette, and my oldest Natasha baby, which was the most expensive one I bought, is the Star palette. As you can see, she's been well loved. I've had this thing for years. And the thing is, Natasha's shadows, you can see, again, are still great. Now, I do feel like if it is a shimmer that I like, they are a little on the chunkier side. You see how that's really shimmery, but it does have some chunk to it. So that is my opinion, but Natasha's mattes are freaking phenomenal. Natasha, I have a lot of products. Their cheap products are great. The foundation is awesome. I pretty much like almost everything that I've bought from Natasha Denona. I can't think of anything that I'm like, oh, that wasn't really good. So there's that. Next is Nomad Cosmetics. So first up, we have America's Parks, which looks like this. This is so pretty. I did get rid of a couple of my Nomad palettes, not because they're bad formulas, but because they weren't my favorite color stories. And I felt like the tones in it were a little bit more mid-tone. Isn't that beautiful? So this is the America's Parks. Then we have the Land of Ice and Fire, which is the Iceland palette. Which I think it's this one. Look at this one. The Elves shade is such a unique color. I really like it. And then probably my favorite out of my Nomad palettes is the Haunted Europe. So that packaging, isn't that cool? Looks like this. I love this grungy color story. Absolutely love it. So, so good. This is one of my favorites. Next up after Nomad, we have Notoriously Morbid. So I have several Notoriously Morbid palettes. I don't own all of them, but I really love their packaging. This is the Dapper Darklings. This was the first palette I got from them and it got me hooked. These shimmers are beautiful. Their mattes are phenomenal. Their color stories are neat, and sometimes their packaging can be a little on the cheap side. I don't feel like Dapper Darkings is it, but I do feel like this is the Haunted AF. This was their Christmas palette last year. As you can see, the packaging is a little chintzy, but the shadows are more of what I look for. Now, some of their shimmers can be on the drier, chunkier side, but they still are beautiful. But you do need a glitter glue with them. So that is the Haunted AF. We also have the Path of the Dark Side. And this shade right here is so cool. It's a black base multi-chrome. So you look at it and it's black, and then you can see that it switches, I'm trying to show you, to red. It's so freaking pretty. I mean, there you go. It's so good. The Absinthe and Lace. see what I mean? Like this shade right here is like one of those flaky, chunky multi-chromes. Now again, I would use a glitter glue with this, but it is so pretty. So pretty. Sorry. And then we have the Rip My Effin' Heart Out, which is their Valentine's palette. So good. Look at that. And this one has more smooth shimmers. They're not always chunky, it's just some of them are. And the Ouija Palette. And now I do have another palette on the way from them, which was the palette I bought for October, which was the Loki palette. The palette that actually counts because the Colourpop collection is Disney, so it's not part of my rules. But look at these. Aren't that, oh, look at that. So good. So good and so overrated. Like nobody ever, I don't see a lot of people talk about them. I learned about them from Teresa's Dead and haven't looked back since. So on to the next brand. The next brand we're going to talk about is Odin's Eye. So these are the big palettes I decided to keep. So we have the Saga of Freya. This is more of a neutral palette, and Odin's Eye is actually what I have on my eyes today. This is the other Saga of Freya. Well, there's 3 for the Saga of Freya. So that's a more neutral side. And then it flips, if I can get it to do because it's magnetized. And then there's that side. That's my more favorite side. Then we have the Cat with the Golden Carriage. The Giant Wolves, which is the one in collaboration with Annette. Then we have, this is the collaboration with It's Judy. And then last but not least from that one is the one in collaboration with Fancy Face, which is what I have on my eyes today. Isn't it beautiful? So stunning. This shade right here, Fancy. Look at that. Like, so much depth to it. It's not even funny. And then we kept the Norns palette. I feel like Odin's Eye has a really unique color story. Some of their older stuff is a little bit too neutral for my liking, but they have good mattes and great shimmers. And I love that they do some more mythological things, like things that are based on Norse mythology. So I think that that is super interesting to me because I love that kind of thing, like Freya, and I'm so interested to see what they come out with next. So on to another favorite brand, which is Pat McGrath. So I own all of the big motherships, all of the quads, and all of the mega motherships. Now I did have a 6-pan. I got rid of it. Wasn't my favorite formula, but we'll go over the mega motherships first. Pat McGrath is a favorite brand of mine. This is the Celestial Divinity. So this is the one from last year. So good. So good. This is the Celestial Odyssey from this year. Again, so good. But the motherships are my favorite. So this is the Midnight Sun. That's, I think, number 5. This is Divine Rose. This one is Bronze Seduction. This is probably this is my favorite neutral palette of all time. Then we have, this is the newest one, which is Utopian Dream. These, like, okay, so her shimmer formula is a little bit drier, but there's something really special about it. You see how nice and metallic it is, and it has so much sparkle to it, but her mattes, I think, are something that really stand out because they have so much depth to them, and you can use one matte and make it look like you use like 4 or 5, which is like, that's something I definitely appreciate about the brand. Then we have, what is this one? I don't remember. I've got so many of them. I think this is number 4. I could be wrong. I have so many. It's still pretty. No, this is not number 4. Is this number 3? This might be number 3. I can't remember. I'd have to go look. This is number 4. So this is the All Shimmer palette, but it does have beautiful, beautiful jewel tones. And I also have the little 5-pan palettes. I did get rid of those. see what I mean? Like, this is what I mean by shimmers that I like. See how metallic they are? Just so good. So good. And I do feel like she overuses pink now, but again, I don't mind it that much. Like, I will still buy all the motherships. This is Divine Rose 2. This is, what is this one? This is the first one. Yes, this is the first one. I think this is like Subversive. There's like one Subversive, Submissive, and something else. And then this is the second one. I love this green shade. And this isn't a chunky green. Like, not all of her shimmers are that super chunky formula, but look at that. And it's like a multi-chrome, so you can see how it shifts. And again, I feel like Pat McGrath is one of the first more mainstream brands to kind of branch out into those really unique shimmers. So I do appreciate that. So on to the next step is Patrick Ta. Now, so far there's only one eyeshadow palette from him, but it is a really good one. It's a great neutral palette. I love the shimmers, which again, a lot of people don't like the chunky shimmers, and I think the mattes are phenomenal. So again, it's an easy and neutral palette to grab for. So I didn't want to get rid of it because again, it's a great formula. Then next after that is Shroud. So I had pretty much all the palettes from Shroud, but I did get rid of Divinity and the Creepy Cute because I don't use pastels, and I decided to keep the Glam Light pastels. And the Divinity was beautiful, but it wasn't my favorite color story. But we have the Arcana palette. Now, Shroud has great mattes, but their shimmers are more on, I feel like they're more of like a satiny shimmer. So there's that. Then I have, it's now Batty Bean, the It's Freaking Bats, which was a collaboration with back then Butte Bean and Shroud. Now it's Batty Bean. But I feel like this is like one of the most unique color stories I've seen. And again, they're pretty. Like, the shimmers are pretty, don't get me wrong. It's just not my absolute favorite color story. Then we have Sigma. So I own 4 palettes from Sigma. I have the Cinderella, which is the newest one. Sigma has a great shimmer and matte formula, and their brushes are really nice. Look at that. Like, you see what I'm saying? They're very, very good. Very good. I need to change like my makeup wipe because I've used it all up. Then we have the Corderosa, the Enchanted, and the Untamed. This is a beautiful color story. This is that grungy kind of color story that I love. But now we're gonna move on to the next brand. Next up, we have Sugar Pill. Now, Sugar Pill is a brand that I absolutely adore as well. So I own, I think, all of the regular eyeshadow palettes they came out with. So we have the capsule collection. So we've got number 1. Now, Sugar Pill is one of those brands that their mattes are absolutely amazing. Their shimmers, not so much. Then we have the number 2 one. I love this packaging. But I do feel like they come out with innovative color stories. Then this is the Halloween one. It's like the dark version, the black capsule collection. And then the 10th anniversary. But I think, as I said, I think their mattes are where they really shine. And I love these little mini palettes. So we have the Fun Size, which are great pastels. And the Fun Size 2, which is a little bit grungier. I think it's a little similar, in my opinion, to the original Fun Size, like when you look at them. But I think that they complement each other really well. So I do like that. Next up, we have Sydney Grace. Sydney Grace is another indie brand that is amazing. So I have the light version, I think, of, this is the Enduring Love. See, so Sydney Grace, their shimmers, see, they're nice and foiled. That's a shimmer, but that one's not the most foiled. But their mattes, like on this finger, they're really good mattes. But you see what I'm saying? Absolutely gorgeous. So we've got that one. I've also got the Tiny Marvels, which is in collaboration with Mel Thompson. which is still so tragic. And this is my favorite Sydney Grace palette. I mean, it's been my favorite Sydney Grace palette. You can see that I've actually dug into, like, this shade Fire Butts is absolutely amazing. Absolutely, look at that. So pretty, so pretty. Mel was amazing and did an amazing job on that. Then we have, this is the Sydney Grace and Temptalia palettes. So I got the dark version. So I don't remember the names of these. So we've got this one, there's one, and this one. I do feel like their color stories for those three are very similar to each other, and I feel like they could have done better by editing it down some. But again, Sydney Grace, these are magnetized in here, so you can pull these out and use them as singles, which is a good thing. So we're gonna move on to the next brand. Okie dokie. So now we're on to the last palette, and that is the Vanity Makeup palette. I don't remember, this is the Signature palette. It's a neutral palette. It's really pretty. I love, look at these shimmers. And the mattes are really nice and soft and pigmented. It's a great black eyeshadow. And the shimmers are super duper nice as well. But those are all the big palettes that I kept. Now, I will do another video with my mini palettes because I don't want this video to end up being 20 hours long, because this is gonna be a super long video and super hard to edit because there are so many different sections. But hopefully you like this video. If you do, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button right down below. And if you hit the notification bell icon next to it, that will notify you when I post new videos, which is typically Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with some bonus content thrown in when I have time and when I'm feeling good. But let me know if any of these are your favorites, or if there's brands that aren't my favorite but you love, let me know. I always am very interested in seeing that. But I guess that's it, so we'll see y'all later. Bye.